Welcome to That's So Savvy, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories and journeys of remarkable business leaders. Join our host, Nancy Aichholz, a seasoned professional and experienced entrepreneur, on her mission to discover the recipe for business success.
Welcome back, Savvy listeners. We are taking a quick detour from our Season 3 Savvy Business of Food to recognize a very special event in our society. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I am in my pink office, decked out in my pink t-shirt, and thinking of all of my dear friends that I have watched struggle through this horrible disease. So I am dedicating this episode to all of you. You know who you are, but just a few: Kim, Karen, Jennifer 1, Jennifer 2, Monique, Koopa, and my sweet friend Dawn, my sorority sister, who is going through a very tough battle right now, but she's the most positive person and we're all pulling for her. So to all my dear friends, and I know I didn't even list a fraction of those of you that have had to struggle with this awful disease, I'm dedicating this episode to you. Like I said in my intro, we are taking a little detour today because we have a really important topic to cover. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I am beyond thrilled to have with me two truly amazing women that just happen to be breast cancer survivors, who I think have such amazing backgrounds and so many great stories to share. And we'll just have a great discussion today about some brightness in the future of breast cancer. I'm going to start with Kristen Dahlgren. You may know her, you probably do know her, as an NBC News correspondent at the Today Show. And she has just an amazing background in history. So Kristen, tell us about Kristen.
Yeah, and it's so funny, Nancy. It's actually hard to separate the two now when you said, we want to get to know you first. Not that being a cancer survivor is my identity, but it's a big part of who I am. So prior to 2019, let's go there, I was a longtime NBC correspondent. So I traveled the world reporting for NBC stations first, and then for the Today Show and NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. I covered things like Hurricane Katrina and the Olympics and all of the really big history-making stories over the past 30 years or so. I had actually been an intern at NBC News in 1993 and then went to some smaller stations and worked my way up, ended up anchoring overnights at MSNBC, and yeah, I got to do some really amazing things. It was my dream job. It was really what I wanted to be doing. And then in 2016, I had my daughter and I was figuring out kind of how to balance being a mom and a correspondent. I remember at the time there was actually a Washington Post op-ed that said something like, it's impossible to be a network correspondent and a mom. There were none of us out there. And I was able to balance that and thought this was the job that I would be doing for the rest of my career. And then in September of 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I kept working through it and went through all of that. But as part of my reporting, actually, I was looking into groundbreaking cancer treatments and I came across this idea that breast cancer vaccines were in development, and I made a complete career 180 when I realized that there were these amazing treatments that people weren't talking about, weren't funding enough, and that we really could do something to move those along. And that's when I ended up leaving my job at NBC to start the Cancer Vaccine Coalition, a nonprofit that's focused on how do we get these treatments, better treatments, less toxic treatments to patients as quickly as possible. So a pretty varied and unusual path that's gotten me here.
Well, I think that all works together, though, your network and all the things that you've done. And I just love it when someone says that they were in their dream job. Everyone should be in their dream job at least once in their life.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that running a nonprofit is a nightmare. It's a different type. And now I actually really feel more than ever like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and what I can do to change the world and really leave a better place for my daughter and for all my friends and all the people out there. Because it's not just women. We're actually beyond breast cancer now. And so this is my new dream job. It's curing cancer.
That's awesome. I love how I'm just inspired by how passion and purpose drive world change. And that's how things change. So our other guest today is a dear friend of mine. We've been, oh gosh, Cheryl, we go back a little ways now. I think it's been at least 10 years, which I don't know how that feels like yesterday. But she doesn't look a day different, Kristen.
Always put together. This took effort today. Like Cheryl, I've never been on a call where she is not perfect.
There's certain that wakes up like this. With us is my dear friend, Cheryl Stamm. She is a software solution consultant. She has her own business. She's been in the software tech industry for years. But how I know her is she is just one of the most stellar volunteers I've ever worked with in anything. When I heard that she was joining you on this, I was like, oh, Kristen, you just hit the jackpot. Because Cheryl is one of those kind of people, work, play, volunteer, everything she does it with purpose and passion. And she's not that volunteer that's going to put her name on something and then not show up. When she decides to take something on, she goes full force. So Cheryl, tell us about Cheryl.
Wow. It's kind of interesting in terms of how I got here. In the beginning, my whole career has been in the software industry. And so when I starting in the 80s, there weren't as many women in tech. So I've always had this passion for helping women. And as I grew my career in the software industry, running large sales forces, traveling the US, traveling the United States, I just could see as things grew in the technology field and women, there was still a need for women to be able to succeed, not just in corporate America, which is what I was doing, but after traveling for 25 plus years around the world and the country, I decided to take a step back, start my own consultancy, and help found a women's business incubator in Cincinnati. And one of the driving forces behind that, being a total newbie in the nonprofit world, was that not just women in tech needed help in starting businesses. We wanted to have a business incubator that was industry agnostic and would help people get access to capital. So I spent almost 10 years helping start, run, and Nancy actually ran the business for 5 years, and we are still in business after 15 years. And it just was a real passion for me to help women. Interestingly, during that time, I met some people involved in politics who were passionate about having a breast cancer bill for women who were not able to have insurance pay for additional testing. And it was during this time that I had a 3D mammogram in December of 2020. Fast forward 5 months into May of 2021, I feel a lump after having had a clear mammogram. And I was told by my doctor at the time that I had the 3D mammogram, I had dense breasts, but there was no offer of, let's do an ultrasound, let's do a breast MRI. And about that same time is when I met some folks in the political side. So we worked at the state of Ohio to get a bill passed called HB 371. And what it was is that regardless of your age, regardless of any kind of insurance status, you would be eligible for additional testing. You would be eligible for a breast MRI or an ultrasound, and your insurance had to pay for it. And that bill passed. And I am not political at all, but it was a thrilling thing to happen. During that time, and I'm not sure exactly the month, Kristen, in her healthcare reporting for NBC, heard about what had happened in Ohio. And we were lucky enough to be introduced to one another. And so I was lucky to meet Kristen right before she was leaving her position at NBC, told me about what she had in mind. And I just felt like this was meant to be. I was meant to jump on board and help with this because it just happened to me. And it already happened to Kristen. And it just became a passion. And that's what brought me to Cancer Vaccine Coalition.
Awesome. Well, Cheryl, I love that. I love that and this is exactly Cheryl, Kristen. I think you can see this all right. She saw a problem and she could relate to it and she went and fixed it.
And look, Cheryl is a gem and we're so lucky to have her. But we always say, like, anyone can do this. I mean, it's not to say it's not hard. It's to say you can take action. You can be a part of the solution. So not everybody needs to go out and quit their job and start a nonprofit. But I do say, right? I don't advise it. But I would say any of us, and we all need to be a part of these solutions. And this is a moment where we really can't wait for anyone else to do this. You need to be your own health advocate. My cancer was also missed on a mammogram. And that's not to say mammogram isn't a great tool, but you need to know your body. I saw a dent in my breast, like Cheryl felt a lump. And so we knew enough about our own bodies to say this is something different. And so it really is being proactive, both for that detection and then for the solutions, because a lot of the treatments that we go through now are things that were developed. The first mastectomies were done in the 1800s. Radiation was discovered in the 1800s. Chemotherapy is like that new innovation that I think was the 1940s. And so we're developing things, and we have done a good job against breast cancer, but we have a long way to go. We still lose 115 people a day in just breast cancer alone. These modern treatments that are really being driven and ignited by artificial intelligence and a new understanding of the immune system, there are better, less toxic treatments in the pipeline in clinical trials. And so I would encourage everyone to learn about what we're doing at Cancer Vaccine Coalition and then take action, whatever that looks like for you. Be a supporter, be a donor, but do something. We have so many conversations about cancer this month, and we're calling it October because I'm done with like the talking about it. We're aware. We can all together do something to make cancer a better experience, less fatal experience for the people we love. And so that's what I love about Cheryl, that she recognized and joined us. And I think that everybody in their own way can really do that.
I love that. Let's back up a minute. So how would you, like just a simple sentence, what is the actual mission of Cancer Vaccine Coalition? Because a lot of people listening probably have never heard of you.
I'm going to give you more than one sentence. Okay, let's start because
this was something that I can understand.
Sorry, I'm used to like time deadlines on TV, but now that I'm not in it, I'm going to go a little bit over because I do want people, first and foremost, we do a lot of like, this is what we're not. And I think people might be hearing that vaccine word and just have like questions. So this is kind of, the cancer vaccines are different than an infectious disease vaccine or childhood vaccine. These are in large part therapeutic vaccines. So it means for people who already have cancer or who may have had it and want recurrence prevention. There are some trials for high-risk populations, so Lynch syndrome or people who have BRCA mutations. And so that's what we're talking about when we say vaccine. It is not the same thing as a flu shot or a COVID vaccine. And so that's the first thing that I really want people to understand. These are immune activating treatments. So our bodies, our immune system is actually like the biggest blockbuster drug. We have the capability of recognizing and fighting cancer if we train our immune systems, if we give it that boost and that blueprint to do so. Cancer is tricky because it's a part of us. It's our own cells that mutate. And so our bodies, our immune systems don't always recognize. They look at the cancer and they say, looks like me, but it's not quite. And what am I supposed to do, to put it in very simple terms? So the vaccines or the immune activating treatments really give our bodies, someone described it as like, this is the wanted poster. This is what that bad guy looks like and what you're supposed to be going after. And so that's what we're talking about. And there's this incredible potential that, imagine if our bodies are just going after and destroying the cancer cells and then monitoring and preventing them from ever taking hold in a recurrence or building new tumors. That's the potential here, rather than, say, a radiation or a chemotherapy that just destroys everything in its path. So it's very precise treatment, and it's a very like modern targeted treatment that we're now able to create because of some of the advances in just the past few years. So, long story short, what Cancer Vaccine Coalition is getting those treatments to patients faster. We are supporting the science. We are bringing the researchers together. We are encouraging public-private partnerships. Anything we can do to create an ecosystem where this research can get into the marketplace, into patients faster, and really change cancer for all of us.
We love it. Because, so many times, and not just breast cancer, all cancers, sometimes you feel like the treatment is what kills people.
A lot of times it's side effects from the treatment. Our treatments are very harsh and toxic, and that's not to discourage anyone from doing them. I'm grateful for chemotherapy. It saved my life. That and the surgery, mastectomy, is essentially an amputation of a part of your body. And then radiation has left lasting scars for me as well. And so I really envision a day where our own bodies are doing some of that work, and it won't be just so destructive physically and mentally. I worry about every day, emotionally. Exactly.
So Cheryl, in your role as a volunteer, what's your perspective on what's going on, and how do you spend your time when you're involved with Cancer Vaccine Coalition? What exactly are you doing as a volunteer? First, I'm board president now. We built a board, and we built a board of people that had expertise in certain areas. I was very fortunate to recruit, for instance, my radiation oncologist. So we have a board of knowledgeable people, and we needed people accounting. I'm the business end. And one of the things that really, really solidified things for me is because of Kristen's connections in the news world and her own doctors at Memorial Sloan Kettering, she was able to bring together and coalesce a very, very impressive scientific board. So besides our board of cancer vaccine, we have the scientific board. And these are made up of doctors who are delivering treatment and the PhD researchers. And these are people, when you go on our website, from Memorial Sloan Kettering, Cleveland Clinic, MD Anderson, University of Washington. I mean, I could go on and on. People who are actually today developing and delivering cancer vaccines. And I just was so incredibly impressed at how quickly Kristen could put that together, which left our board able to deal with the day-to-day. So what do I do? As an example, I met Kristen up in Indianapolis 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we present to a group of people who are, one, interested in the vaccine, two, that are in treatment, and want to learn more, and how can I help? So as you know, Nancy, in this kind of environment, it's all about money. And so it's wonderful to have these doctors come with us and be very specific. Dr. Paula Pullman is also working in a cancer vaccine at MD Anderson. She's able to explain, as an example, to the group, this is how much money it takes to do the trial. But it's once you do that, it's not just helping the people that are in the trial. You now have an immunotherapy vaccine that can actually, it could be produced and go to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I think for me, on the day-to-day basis, it's about whoever I'm with being able to talk to and educate and work with development and fundraising. And that's what we're trying to do, especially in this environment where a lot of research dollars may or may not be available as much as they were. So that's really where we are. I love it. I think getting the community involved in these kind of things is so critical because administrations change all the time. Tax laws change. Everything changes. But you can just keep it really at the community level and the medical level as much as possible and really work to find those matching grants and things that can support what we're doing. Then that just puts us way ahead of even we don't have the hiccups and the bumps in the road as much Right. If we feel like we're depending on the government all the time for everything. Let's talk a little bit about where are things today with this vaccine? Like in my perfect world, I could go up to Kroger right now and say, give me that breast cancer vaccine because that would be wonderful.
Yeah. And we'll get there someday, I hope. Right now, and there are multiple vaccines because cancer is not just one single disease. So a lot of different researchers are targeting different things. So there are cancer vaccines in clinical trials. And it's not just breast cancer. There are vaccines for pancreatic cancer showing incredible results. For glioblastoma, things that were once a death sentence now have this option, and we're seeing some really great results. Breast cancer vaccine, since we started talking about that, this fall, there are trials opening for metastatic estrogen and progesterone receptor positive breast cancer, for metastatic triple negative breast cancer. Cancer Vaccine Coalition just funded the expansion of a trial that's supposed to be for recurrence in HER2 positive breast cancer. So those are all the subtypes that actually have clinical trials that either are going on right now or are going to be going on very shortly. There are also personalized vaccines in development. So some researchers are able to take a person's tumor to analyze it using AI to detect what parts of that cancer our immune systems can target, and then build a vaccine that specifically tells your immune system what your tumor looks like and what to fight. And so it really is quite exciting. And just to give you an example of some of the results that we're seeing. So University of Washington, who we work really closely with, they've been working on cancer vaccines for quite some time. So more than 10 years ago, they developed an off-the-shelf vaccine. That means they have certain things that they're targeting that work across different people's cancer. So they were looking at HER2 positive cancer. They were looking at late stage patients. So patients with stage 3 and 4 disease, pretty advanced, and some in quite dire circumstances. They gave the vaccine as part of this clinical trial. 10 years later, the people that got the ideal dose of that vaccine, 85+% still alive, when their median survival rate for that type of cancer at stage 4 is only expected to be 5 years. So really incredible results. Even the people that didn't get what they considered the ideal dose, 75% still alive more than 10 years out. And so that's the type of promise that we're talking about. In kidney cancer, it was Yale and Dana-Farber that were working on a kidney cancer vaccine. 100% of the people that they treated with this kidney cancer vaccine were still alive, and they saw 100% immune response. And so it really is these exciting, incredible results and promise. And so that's why these trials and the next trial, the phase 2 and the phase 3 are so important, because that's when we continue to get the data. We continue to get the data in bigger groups of patients. We then compare it to current standard of care. And I will note, in these trials, it's not that we're withholding chemotherapy. And I always say we, like I'm one of the researchers. It's not like the researchers are withholding, the current standard of care. People are still getting chemotherapy. They're still getting their surgeries in most cases. But it is looking at, can we get an immune response as well? And then in the phase 3, we'll start to compare it with people who are just getting that standard of care. And that's how we get drugs approved in this country, and how we'll be able to get them to more patients, where it will someday be on the market. It will be a decision you make with your oncologist. It will never be mandated, but people will have the opportunity someday, we hope, to get these vaccines through their cancer hospital. And maybe Kroger.
Yeah.
If you want to sponsor us, Kroger, we are looking for.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what we can find in Cincinnati with Kroger, Cheryl.
Right?
Yeah. Cheryl, so advice for listeners who are wanting to help. You're talking about the money aspect, and I know you have a donation link on the website, but there has to be more than that. What would you encourage the lay people, women, children, husbands, men, everybody who care about breast cancer specifically, but also just cancer in general? What would you tell us to do?
Well, a couple of things. As you know, in everyone's neighborhood and city, there are a million different things going on right now. There's runs for this, and they're all for for wonderful things. They're all for people to drive people to treatments. There are research dollars. There are just so many different things. Buy a t-shirt, shopping events, percentages go. But what we have done is we have created a grassroots, kind of call it a cancer vaccine coalition in a box, where we can help a local community host a fundraiser and a couple things happen. Yes, we want the donations and the matching grants, and it is on our site, but you're not going to get that if they don't understand what Cancer Vaccine Coalition is and what cancer vaccines are. And so we do have a nice program now that we can offer to the community. And we have, I think we've done about 10 of them. I think that's about the right number. So it's a way, and you mentioned it very early on, Nancy, about getting your local community involved. The big differentiator is with all the noise around cancer research, and we're the only ones that are focused on a vaccine. That's the big differentiator. I mean, American Cancer Research, Susan B. Komen, these are all wonderful, wonderful organizations. But we are focused solely on vaccines. That's what we're talking to the local communities about.
Everybody hear that? It's easy to get Cancer Coalition in a box. Do it for the cancer. One thing I've seen some of my friends doing, and this might be perfect for this situation, is they host parties and everybody brings you a candle or a bottle of wine or whatever. Like, this stage of life, we really don't need any more candles. In lieu of a hostess gift, bring us a donation for Cancer Vaccine Coalition, and then have the information there at the event that you're going to have the party anyway, right? Generally, a lot of these parties are our girlfriends, so that's a perfect target. Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had along the way. Kristen, what have you run into that has been like, just frustrating, or just didn't go the way you thought it would? And how did you resolve that?
I had never run a nonprofit before, and so I've been kind of surprised by some of that. Sometimes I'm like, wow, this has more drama than TV news. They should forget the morning show, maybe do a sitcom or a drama about running a nonprofit. No, I mean, there are challenges. There have been bumps along the road, but what I've learned is when you have an end goal that is so important, it really is just always keeping the mission in mind. We were early on under a different name and a different umbrella, and Cheryl and I recognized that there was a different and better way, we thought, to run the organization. And so we reformed Cancer Vaccine Coalition and were able to do that. And that was not what I expected, but those things happen. It's similar to when you're going along with your life and then you have a diagnosis, God forbid, of cancer. And so if there's anything, this community is very resilient. We have a lot of survivors and previvors involved, both as volunteers, as board members, and helping us run the organization. And so I think it's always just keeping that end goal in mind. I had no idea, like in October, there's a lot of different ways you can spend your money. And I've been learning that some of the things that it's called pink washing, some of the things don't actually go in a significant percentage to either patients or research or mission critical things that nonprofits are doing. And so you really do have to be discerning in who you're giving your money to. I was surprised that there are a lot of organizations where the leadership are making huge salaries, or it's not a big percentage that's going to maybe the cure. And so I just would encourage people also to look at that. I feel like, and this is not a criticism of anyone in particular, but there is a huge pink economy. And people, especially in October, and as a patient, it's really, I find unfortunate that so many people are trying to slap some pink on things and say, oh, we're supporting women, breast cancer patients and women's health. And I think this should be a year-round thing. I actually don't like the fact that it's 1 month a year where we're really just focusing on this. I think it's important that we do this type of work and do good in the world and make an impact year-round. And so, those are some of the challenges I think for me and things that I came across and what we're trying and hoping to do is to really cut through that. We are always, always, always driven by what is the fastest and most efficient way to get better treatments to patients. It's what I wake up in the middle of the night worried about. It is what I wake up in the morning thinking about. And it is what we are doing every day. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I would like for her generation to never have to worry about this disease in the same way that we have.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I semi-joke, but it's not really joking, that every year when I go for my mammogram, I'm just holding my breath. Like, is it my turn? Because it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I don't have any in my family at all, which is pretty amazing, really. But only 20% is genetic.
Yeah, a lot of us don't. I had my grandmother had it, I think, at 85. So I was 47 when I was diagnosed. It was not something that was on my radar at all or that I expected to have. And that's a story that we hear over and over again. We're seeing younger women being diagnosed with cancer. We're seeing people who don't have family histories.
Right.
And so it's so important that you are getting that screening, you're knowing your body, and you're doing what you can to help now, because God forbid, and I would not wish this on anyone, but we are going to know someone, almost 1 in 2 of us will be diagnosed with cancer in our lifetime. Right. It really is that holding your breath, waiting for your turn, unfortunately. But there's stuff we can do about it now before you ever need this cancer treatment. And so why wouldn't we do this now while we can, before it claims more lives, before you have to go through those harsh treatments?
And Cheryl, as a volunteer, what do you see as some of the biggest hurdles to getting to this dream world that we all want, where these treatments are available? I mean, I would love to figure out why the heck we're all getting cancer in the first place, which I think that's I don't think we'll see that in our lifetime. But what are some of the biggest obstacles, challenges that you see?
Just in my own work and day-to-day and people I meet with, I think the biggest goes back to the very beginning of the conversation, and that is education about what cancer vaccines are and what they are not. I mean, when I hate to use the words dumb it down, but what I tell people is think about your own immune system, that if you have the flu or a cold and you don't take any medicine, but you get better in 10 days, I mean, that's your immune system. And it's really, I just say a vaccine kicks in your immune system. This isn't saying you don't still get treatment. Unfortunately, today, the vaccines are not preventive, where like if you did have a genetic mutation that you could get a vaccine. That's not what this is, because I think it's more than 80% of breast cancers are not genetic. I mean, mine is not genetic. No one in my family. It's simply for me, dense breasts is number one. I have not had children and I have all my female organs. And so you're still making estrogen. These are usually estrogen-driven things. So I go back to your question. And for me, it's about people, if they don't understand it, they aren't going to fund it. So it's the understanding. I'll go back to this Indy meeting. One of the women, her husband is a very high-end plastic surgeon who does a lot of excellent breast reconstruction. And he had mentioned to her, he happened to be out of town, but she told me he had mentioned to her breast cancer vaccines. That's hokey. There's no such thing. I don't even believe it. And so it's not just education of the community, but I guess I was a little surprised, maybe naively. I would have thought all doctors know about it, but they don't. And even our own board member told me, she said, Cheryl, you would be surprised how many people are not. So I still think there is an education component. It's getting better, but that is a big hurdle. And that is what Kristen is such an evangelist when she is speaking to very high level people around the country, that the message is getting out there. I mean, because you see it. There are vaccines for other cancers as well and trials. So that's what, for me, day to day, when I meet with people and talk to people, that's what I think the challenge is.
No, I would completely agree. I happen to be very close to an OBGYN.
Yes.
And when I mentioned it to him, he's like, there's a vaccine for breast cancer. I'm like, oh, yes. And you need to know about it. So I'm doing my homework.
Yes. Good.
Literally at home. It's such a great topic. There's so much more that we can talk about it. And I do have a Substack that goes along with this podcast. So anything that you want me to include in that, just shoot it along to me.
Say too, sorry, if I can, just one more thing, Nancy, because I want people to understand. I mean, look, there's a lot of talk about research funding and vaccines in the country at this point. And I would just say that this is non-political. Cancer vaccines, cancer doesn't impact one party over another. And the NIH director, I was really encouraged to see saying, we think mRNA cancer vaccine research is really promising and should be pursued. I'm really hopeful that we're able to get this widespread national program and platform going for this. In the UK, they're giving out 10,000 cancer vaccines as part of clinical trials. They've allowed their cancer vaccine researchers to work with the supercomputer, so they're able to even accelerate it more. Other countries like Russia and China are working on cancer vaccines. This is something that globally is being developed, but this is a really crucial time for the United States to do what we do really well, and that's innovation and biomedical innovation. And so I'm hopeful that this is something that everyone can get behind, because it really doesn't fall on one side or the other. And I think this is something that could actually unify all of us, because who wants their loved one or themselves to suffer through cancer? And so I would just encourage everyone to learn more and reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions.
And we will put all the connections, the website, everything in our show notes. And like I said, anything that you want me to stick in Substack so that people can learn more, dig in more, I'm happy to do that. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a fun question now as we close. So Cheryl, I'm going to ask you first. If you knew 100% as a breast cancer survivor, 100%, no doubt, that you were never going to get breast cancer again, it was never going to come back, you were done, what would you do to celebrate?
Oh, my word. Oh, God. First of all, that's such an emotional question, because I would, first of all, be the first. I mean, I would just go so fast. But I think that I would want to somehow coordinate with everybody I've worked with through this, pop multiple bottles, share it with the world, and try to get everyone I know who's had cancer to get in line and get it. I mean, it would just be apocalyptic. It just would be, Cheryl Fresh Basing. I would be so happy for everybody. Oh,
yeah. Well, if that's your party, Cheryl, I'm coming.
Oh, good.
Kristen.
I mean, it's funny. I would definitely have a glass of wine or champagne with no guilt.
Yeah.
I'm always navigating the can I drink? Can I not? It's a confusing thing, especially when you've been a cancer patient. I would go on hormone replacement therapy with you now, so that I don't have to deal with these menopause symptoms. And hopefully I would get my first full, good, uninterrupted night's sleep since my diagnosis, because this has been 6 years out and this has been quite a journey. And I would hug my little girl, because
this would be
a huge win.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I'm here to celebrate with you both. And my thing is, if somebody could tell me that I would never get it, oh my gosh, I think I would figure out how to do backflips. Anybody who knows me will be thinking that's pretty funny, but I would figure it out, because that it just to get that weight off our minds, and to get the weight off worrying about our friends and worrying about our daughters and all the things. So I guess it's actually probably heaven where we don't have all these worries. But if we could do it here in our lifetime, I mean, just what an amazing accomplishment that
we can. I mean, Nancy, our researchers are saying with the right support, 5 to 10 years or less. This is not decades from now. It's coming. It's whether or not we want it decades from now or whether we want to accelerate it. And that really all comes down to funding and support. It's as simple as that. And that's where I started this saying everyone can get involved. Everyone can make a difference and put us closer.
Well, Kristen, that's the perfect close to working together. I can't thank you both enough, Kristen Dahlgren, Cheryl Stamm. I think we'll revisit this again as things progress. And I'm just so excited to share this with my That's So Savvy listeners, because this is about the savviest thing we've talked about in a long time. Really, really appreciate what you're both doing. Appreciate your time today, and go out and enjoy whatever nice weather we have left.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.